Welcome to my YouTube video. If you like it, hit like and subscribe. Today I'm going to show you how to use manual mode on your camera. Now I know a lot of people say, oh, I only use manual mode because I am an experienced photographer. Well, it's not really that hard. And I actually use manual mode most of the time because this camera has automatic ISO. So to set the exposure, the cameras use the shutter speed, the f-stop or the aperture, and the ISO sensitivity. When you're in full automatic mode, the camera selects all of those. So in manual mode, you can get the correct exposure by putting the camera in auto ISO. You can see at the bottom of the screen in the yellow, it's in auto ISO. Okay, and then use the back dial to set the shutter speed. You can see the shutter speed changing here. And the dial right behind the shutter button to set the aperture. Now, the higher the shutter speed, the less light it lets hit the sensor. But it can freeze motion or motion blur. You can freeze it with higher shutter speeds. For like kids sports, you go to 1000. For other things that aren't moving fast, 200 is plenty fast. 160 and 125 are usable if you hold the camera real steady. The camera has 5-axis optical stabilization. The aperture is the iris in the lens, and it controls the amount of light that goes in the lens. If you open it all the way up to f2.8, it lets the most light in. However, when the focus in the front and back of your subject is limited. So if you go to a smaller f-stop, like f8 or f11, which is the maximum on this camera, you get more things in focus behind your subject and in front of your subject, but you get less light coming into the lens. Now, if the exposure's not going to be right, and you have it set up this way, when you push the shutter button halfway down, your shutter speed and your f-stop flash, and your ISO shows in the lower right hand corner shows 3200. That's the maximum default in the camera that the auto ISO goes up to. You can increase that through the menus, but you can see the shutter speed and the aperture flashing. So let's see, we'll open up the lens here. Let's go all the way to 2.8 and see what that does. That's no good. Okay, it's kind of dark in this room. So we'll go down to, it's on a tripod, so I can probably, okay, get a shot at a 40th of a second. Okay, and I have the review set at 2 seconds, so you can review your image or the image the camera took for 2 seconds after you shoot it. And that's on, that's on the menu item. Yeah, monitor display. It's one of the tool ones. Auto review. So it's set to 2 seconds. Okay. And to use the flash, you can actually use the flash on this camera at any shutter speed that it's set at, because it has a leaf shutter, and they will synchronize the flash at any speed. So we could turn our flash up to, oops, going the wrong way. Let's go up to 1000s. And you can either use an external flash, which I use an external flash a lot. So I use manual mode. That's the best to use an external flash on, because you can use a TTL flash, which means through the lens. It meters, it shoots out a small burst of light to set the flash to the right power. So, let's see this. Well, I'm just going to pop up the flash on the camera. Okay, see? There we go. So that's the beauty of using manual mode. And our flash, the pop-up flash, has TTL. So it's capable of, let's see, I'm going to put this, I'll put this Godox flash on. It's the Godox TT350. This one is made for Panasonic, and it does TTL with Panasonic. I'll just pop this on the camera here. Okay. I'll turn it on. It's set for TTL mode, and here we go. Oops, what happened there? Oh, wait a minute. You have to make sure it's all the way in the chute and locked in the chute. Okay. Okay. And there you go. So if you just set your ISO at automatic, you can set your shutter speeds and your aperture to anything that works, with the available light, or with your flash's power output ability. Just with the flash, you don't have to fuss with the shutter speed because it's faster than the shutter. But you have to be on manual shutter. You can't have the camera on automatic shutter. Let's see. Let's go over shutter type. It has to be MSHTR. It can't be auto or ESHTR is electronic shutter. So I guess that's it from my how to use manual mode. And you can just, as long as it's on auto ISO, you can leave it in manual mode and set your shutter speed and your aperture. If you're taking like kids soccer, fast sports, put your shutter speed up to 1000. You're outside, it's plenty bright. Put your f-stop probably around 5, 6, or 4. Let's see. Give you a little depth of focus. Because the kids are going to be moving around, your autofocus may not track 100% perfect. You can set it for tracking autofocus, but I find that the other modes work pretty good too. And then if you're shooting a landscape and you want the foreground in focus, you can drop your shutter speed down so that you can get a lower ISO. You don't want it shooting the higher ISO because it has more noise and doesn't have the quality of the lower ISOs. So you drop your shutter speed down, and let's see, when you push the flash is on, so I have to take the flash off to show the ISO speed here. Okay. When you push the shutter button halfway down, it shows you the ISO speed that the camera's going to set. It's not very bright in here, so it's going to the maximum and saying it's not bright enough. But when you're outside, it will show you the ISO in kind of like the bottom right hand side. So you're saying ISO 3200 now. So you want that to go, I don't know, below 400 if you're shooting landscapes or things outside that are well lit. So you can drop your shutter speed down, and if you're really steady-handed, you can go to 125 or whatever. The camera has the optical image stabilization, but if you're really shaking all over the place, it's not going to help. So if you're steady-handed, and especially when you zoom into 400, it's you're going to have a lot of motion blur. So if you're zoomed in, you want to use a higher shutter speed. And if you want more of the foreground and more of the background in focus, go with a higher f-stop or aperture. And I guess that's about it. I'm going to make more YouTube videos on the FZ1000, but this also works with my Sony Alpha 7 R3, except you can't use the flash at any speed higher than a 200th, because the Sony has a focal plane shutter, and the FZ1000 has a leaf shutter. So that's it. Thanks for watching my YouTube video. Like and subscribe if you like it. Bye.